Hey Summoners, how's it going? Welcome back to the 10 best low elo carries for patch 12.3. My name is Nathan Ng, and like the title suggests, I'll be your host running you guys through this list of champions curated by our own high elo analyst team. Make sure you hit that sub button so you don't miss out on any future content like this, and let's get started. First are our top lane picks. We'll kick off the video with the true champion of skill, the king of the brush, the original spin to win master, Garen. Garen is an incredibly low elo pick not only because he's strong, but also because he's easy. With less margin for error, the only way that you'll ever realistically miss out on potential DPS is if you accidentally right-click a minion. That's the bare minimum to play League of Legends, and clicking the wrong champion with any champion is gonna end in a disaster. Garen is a bunch of stats packed into a champion. He's tanky, he deals tons of damage, and he even has some practical sustain built into his kit. With all of this in mind, he's a perfect pick to lock in and run in headfirst into combat with. His E's built-in armor shred makes him a great pick against both squishy and tanky champions alike, so it's no surprise that Garen has once again made the list. For runes, run Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, Conditioning, Overgrowth, Double Adaptive Force, and a defensive rune. For his items, build Berserker Greaves, Stridebreaker, Mortal Reminder, Dead Man's Plate, Serix Gauge, and Force of Nature. Second top lane pick that we have in mind is Nasus. His current 52% win rate isn't as dominant as Garen's, but it's still rather impressive. When enemy players don't really properly play around Nasus' scaling, he quickly hits monstrous power spikes. Even making it to level 6 without falling behind is a huge win for him. The extra tankiness and reduced cooldown on his Q makes most 1v1s winnable. If not, he's able to take a heavy trade and heal back up with his passive. Then he gets more free farm, and before you know it, that ends up creating a huge problem for the enemy team. As games stall out longer and longer, the inevitable late game Nasus poses a lingering threat that most low elo players don't really know how to deal with. For Nasus' runes, use Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, Second Wind, Unflinching, Cooldown Reduction, and 2 defensive runes. Don't worry about missing out on damage. You'll scale up and have plenty of it later into the game. For his items, build Divine Sunderer, Frozen Heart, Spare Visage, Aeonian Boots of Lucidity, Thornmail, and Gargoyle Stoneplate. Now if you're the one that has to deal with champions like Nasus, definitely check out ProGuides.com. We have plenty of incredible coaches who love to help you out, and I cannot recommend them enough, not because they paid me for it, but because it works. Next, we have the jungle, and our first featured pick is Master Yi. Season 12 has treated him quite well with the new reworked lethal tempo, and he's tearing solo queue apart. The counterplay to Master Yi is to coordinate burst damage, hit him with crowd control, and shut down his split push. In lower elos, teams more often not have the necessary resources to stop his game plan. The lack of teamwork or general understanding of what to do against him also heavily contributes to Master Yi's significantly higher win rate in low elo. Once ahead, there's very little that players can do to him. He deals insane damage, cannot be slowed, and even has a reset mechanic with his Q and his ultimate. All of these make him a menace that can easily 1v9 in solo queue. For his runes, there are actually 2 setups that you can go for. The first is a Halo Blade setup. Halo Blades, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Triumph, and Legend Alacrity. For his Lethal Tempo setup, you instead run Lethal Tempo, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter. For his items, you can either build Assassin or On Hit. For the on-hit, build Kraken Slayer, Berserker's Greaves, Ginsu's Rage Blade, Blade of the Ruined King, Death's Dance, and Guardian Angel. For the assassin build, you want Death's Blade of Drakthar, the Collector, Berserker's Greaves, Essence Reaver, Lord Dominic's Regards, and Guardian Angel. Our next jungle build is for Rammus. He's able to carry games with his powerful point-and-click crowd control and sheer virtue of being unkillable. Against full AD comps, it's pretty much game over for the enemy team as long as they don't pull ahead by some ridiculous margin. Rammus, in spite of being a tank, also deals a ton of damage, which is great for carrying games in low elo. A lot of the time, players will be too busy complaining about how Rammus does too much of everything. The tilt factor definitely contributes to his low elo presence. For his runes, run Aftershock, Fond of Life, Conditioning, Unflinching, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Attack Speed, and Double Armor. For his items, build Turbo Chem Tank, Plated Steel Caps, Thornmail, Dead Man's Plate, Force of Nature, and Gargoyle Stoneplate. That's it for the jungle, and we'll be heading over to the mid lane next. To kick things off in the mid lane, we have Veigar. Rather recently, Veigar received a solid buff to his Q, reducing his cooldown and also granting him extra AP whenever killing large minions or monsters. With some increased damage and scaling speed, Veigar can quickly come online and begin dominating games. His E is one of the strongest abilities. Even in high elo, the ability is an oppressive zoning tool. Whether or not you land the stun, you're able to force your opponents to stay within a certain area unless they have Summoner Flash or break out. Ideally, you can land the stun because it'll lead to some big damage with a follow-up W and Q. Nonetheless, Veigar does a good job of punishing enemies for not ending games quickly. He's able to quickly farm up a ton of AP and begin one-shotting enemies, especially squishies who are too stubborn to purchase MR. He's currently sitting at a solid 53% win rate in low elo, so don't sleep on him. For his runes, run Predator, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ingenious Hunter, Manaflow Band, and Celerity. By running Predator, you're able to set up ganks, initiate your own fights, and also roam much more effectively. For items, build Everfrost or Luden's Tempest, Sonya's Hourglass, Sorcerer's Shoes, Rabadon's Deathcap, Void Staff, and Banshee's Veil. The next champion that we have for you in the mid lane is Ahri. Following her most recent rework, she's doing incredibly well at all ranks. As long as you're comfortable with using her abilities and landing skill shots, Ahri is in the perfect place to carry games across all ranks. Her ultimate now features a reset mechanic on takedown. Overall, the changes have made her a lot easier to use and much more forgiving to play. Her charm costs less mana to use, and her passive provides much easier access to sustain than before. As always, Ahri is an incredibly safe pick that exerts a ton of kill pressure on her opponents. Her ultimate can be used both offensively and defensively, putting her enemies in a horrible position after level 6. It opens up plenty of outplay potential and also makes her nearly impossible to gank. Enemy players might reach a little bit too far and put themselves at risk of eating a charm and walking into turret range. For her runes, use Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter, Biscuit Delivery, and Time Warp Tonic. Since Ahri has the same built into her kit, you can opt to take Ultimate Hunter over Ravenous Hunter, which is usually the choice for most champions. For items, build Luden's Tempest or Everfrost, Sorcerer's Shoes, Shadow Flame, Sonya's Hourglass, Rabadon's Deathcap, and Void Staff. Since we just finished talking about Ahri, let me ask you our question of the day today. What's your favorite change so far from Season 12 and or preseason? For me, it was adding the slow back to Senna's Q. It feels nice to be able to play without having to take Glacial Augment. Let me know your answers and thoughts in the comments down below, and let's continue on with the video. Moving on to the bottom lane, we'll start off with Vayne. In the current state of the game, it seems like most of the strongest marksman picks are strong at both low and high elo. Vayne in low elo isn't punished as hard as she should be. On the other hand, she's also incredibly mobile and hits hard with some big single target damage. She's able to capitalize on the mistakes of her lane opponents remarkably well, and if she's ever able to catch an enemy out and pin them against the wall, they're as good as dead. As the game progresses, Vayne has the necessary tools to survive enemy divers, especially if their execution isn't clean. For runes, run Lethal Tempo, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter. For items, build Immortal Shield Bow, Berserker's Greaves, Ginsu's Rage Blade, Wit's End, Blade of the Rune King, and Guardian Angel. The next bottom lane pick is Jhin. Just like Vayne, he's finding success at all ranks. Picking him was an easy decision by our analyst. He's not particularly difficult to play and also has a very powerful early game. With his 4-shot passive, he's able to dominate the laning phase and easily pick up takedowns against enemies who underestimate his damage. His W is also a great follow-up for any abilities that his support hopefully lands. His ultimate also serves as a great way to finish off enemies trying to escape, initiate teamfights, or try to pick off enemies who are alone. For his runes, take Dark Harvest, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Presence of Mind, and Legend Bloodline. While the builds that we offer serve as guidelines, I heavily suggest not straying from this one that we've provided. Without Presence of Mind, you're going to run into some pretty big mana issues later on into the game. And out of the rest of the precision tree, Legend Bloodline is simply the most valuable rune that you can take on Jhin. For his items, build Gale Force, Boots of Swiftness, the Collector, Rapid Fire Cannon, Infinity Edge, and Guardian Angel or Lord Dominic's Regards. That wraps up the bot laner, so we'll be concluding with the supports. Let's talk about Blitzcrank first. He's a great tank support that also brings some of the highest kill pressure out of anybody in the role. You can say that he's quite literally grabbing our attention. His hook is one of the greatest terrors any bot laners has to face. In low elo, players are presented with more opportunities to land those game-winning hooks, and they also have better odds at landing them during the laning phase. When played well, Blitzcrank sets a fast pace for games as he's able to help his lane partner or teammates quickly pull ahead. No pun intended, I used that twice now, doesn't matter. For his runes, take Aftershock, Font of Life, Bone Plating, Unflinching, Biscuit Delivery, Cosmic Insight, Cooldown Reduction, Armor, and a choice of a defensive rune. For his items, build Relic Shield, Boots of Mobility, Locket of Iron Solari, Knight's Vow, and Wardstone, as well as Redemption. Our final pick is Xerath. League's designated artillery mage really racks up the damage over the course of a game. Especially when your team is lacking in the damage or if you end up with 4 other AD champions, there's no better time to lock in Xerath. I know we said in our mid-patch update that Xerath dropped a tier, and that's because Lux or Zyra could do his job a lot better. But in low elo, a good Xerath will be way more useful than a Zyra or a Lux, so those are still not bad picks. And this is especially true when your team is lacking in damage or if you end up with 4 other AD champions, and there's no better time to lock in Xerath. Even without picking up kills during the laning phase, he's quickly able to scale up by farming gold off the first strike keystone as well as Spell Thief's Edge. You get to play a hard-hitting AP carry without even having to take minions. That's a huge win, and the best part is that Xerath is able to outrange his enemies and poke them down with practically no commitment. Left unchecked, he'll quickly scale up and also have the potential to put his opponents far behind after poking them and forcing them to recall. For his runes, run First Strike, Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, Cosmic Insight, Mana Flow Band, Scorch, Double Adaptive Force, and Armor. For his items, build Spell Thief's Edge, Luden's Tempest, Horizon Focus, Zanya's Hourglass, Rabadon's Deathcap, and Void Staff. And that concludes our best low elo carries for patch 12.3. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, make sure to read the description to find a link to join our Discord. There you'll be the first to find out about any future giveaways or events that we hold. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.